What's up? We're a lunchtime conversation. Okay, you guys ready to go?
Ready to go.
Ready.
So we're going to talk about time travel today, and we're just going to see where it goes. I have a couple movies in here that we could talk about, maybe to get us primed. The first off, have you seen Back to the Future?
Yes.
Okay. What about Looper?
Yep. You kill your future self.
Yep. Work for the mob, kill your future self. Butterfly Effect with
A long time ago, Ashton Kutcher.
Yep. What about the Netflix series Dark? That one got interested. So I have some notes on those movies that we can look at, and then we'll talk about just other time travel stuff. Some of the science behind it, though. On Interstellar, there's some not time things, but there's some time dilation is probably the way to put it. So there's the one scene.
There's time travel too. And
oh yeah, true. When he's in the bookshelf and he's back. So yeah, I guess there is time travel at the very end. But from like time is so weird to me from the aspect that like I think it was one of the astronauts, they took clocks up to space with them. They're like,
true story.
This is legit.
It was Scott Kelly and his brother, I forget his name. They both put watches on. And one of them was on the ISS for a full year, and the other one was back on Earth.
And when they were like calibrated, legit good watches. They were different when they got back. So
and they were twins, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So you experience like gravity affects time. So that's why on Interstellar, the whole scene when they go down to the water planet, they're only down. They told them, they said, hey, we're going to go down and check. And the one guy said, I'll stay. And he knew it was going to be a while. But because of the crash and everything that happened, they were there for a couple hours. It was like years and years and years up on the ship.
It was like 30 years or something. He was like gray hair at that point, wasn't it?
And so that's where it's like, it's interesting that gravity affects it. The other thing is speed affects it. So if you're going close to the speed of light, gravity gets heavier, or the mass gets heavier, I guess, which I don't understand that from the science side. But time travel, though, that gets really weird for me. I don't see how, because so on Looper, the one with Looper that I think I'm not a fan of, it was a good movie. Don't get me wrong. I love Looper and Back to the Future. They're great. But the fact that there's things that are physically changing in that world because of things that are happening in a different time. So like on Looper, so the mob hires you to just kill bad guys or to kill people that the mob sends. So you show up somewhere, someone appears, you shoot them, dispose of the body. So that the mob in the future, the way they get rid of bodies is they send them back in time. You kill them. And then when you kill them, there's always like silver bars that you can go and cash in. On Looper, when you kill someone and then there's gold bars, you killed yourself. And that's when you're free. You don't have to work for the mob anymore. And you got a lot of money because you got gold bars. You go live out your life until they capture you in the future and send you back to kill yourself. So the interesting thing is, though, is like if they try to run away, they'll capture the younger one, not the one that got sent back. And they'll start like carving into their arm, like show up at this address, and then a scar will show up on the older person's arm. And that's where I'm like, that's just like, that doesn't make sense to me.
Why?
Because it's not happening in the same like time zone. Not time zone, but like
it is. Well, once you've crossed times, you created a loop. And so
and you're saying they're connected.
Yeah, they're connected at that point. Because
so you're going back to like time isn't even a real thing. Like there can only, well, then how can there be more than one of you?
Because it's, okay, so the time is linear, let's just say, right?
Yep.
And when you go back in time, you create a loop. So your timeline is no longer linear. It loops back and then overlaps itself. So that's how you have two different versions of you. And so then if the older back in time version gets something new, a scar,
it'll appear on the older version.
Then that gets sent forward into time, and then it updates your time because it didn't happen in your timeline. That's why you don't have those scars.
But it's up. You're saying it updates through the loop.
Yes, and then so then because it sends those updates, to you on in your loop. Yeah. So then you're creating. Well, yeah, you're kind of creating a different timeline, a new timeline, but that you are there and influencing.
Yeah, and that's where time travel, like the movies are so good, but it's so mind-boggling to think about time travel.
Is freaking awesome.
Have you guys seen Loki on Disney Plus?
So, and that was another one I wanted to bring up because it creates different
branches of time.
It creates and that I like,
which is like almost interdimensional travel, where it's just there's something different with each timeline. So what you're talking about, Braden, is if you captured future you, but you carved into younger you's skin, future you's going to have that mark, whereas on another timeline that never happened to you.
Yeah, that would be like another dimension. Yeah,
but that's the concept of Loki, and that's I guess the theory of like interdimensional travel. It pretty much.
Yeah, and then when you do mess with time travel, it branches out. So instead of just being one time thing, once you start to mess with it, it starts to branch out. And I think that's the whole point of the people in Loki that are trying to capture and control it, is because if it gets too hectic, it breaks everything.
Yeah, they won't be able to control it.
Yep.
That's kind of a butterfly effect type thing, yeah?
But so, and I think I liked Butterfly Effect because his was more, didn't he have like something wrong with his brain? Yeah. And he would have a flashback to certain points of blackouts that he'd go back in time.
Yeah. So I think the story is he experienced blackouts when he was a kid and he could never really explain it. And so that he'd start journaling, but come to find out that the reason why he was blacking out, it was because future him was traveling back in time and taking over.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Like he thought he blacked out in the school, but future him came back and slammed his hands on the nail thing to give him the scars.
Yep. So he didn't remember it because it was future him coming back, taking over his body and doing something and then leaving. And it was traumatizing him.
Yep.
Traumatizing himself.
I like that movie because it was fun to watch because he was trying to make it better for him and his girlfriend. But it just kept making it worse and worse and worse. And then finally I thought the ending was, didn't he like pass his girlfriend in like some city and he's just like walking by her and she doesn't even really recognize him and she just smiles at him?
There's 3 different endings.
Oh, there's 3?
You didn't know that?
Yeah, I think there's multiple endings.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, there's 2 that I know of for sure. One ending is where he goes back and he kills himself in the womb.
Oh, okay. I do remember hearing about that one.
Yeah, so
because he's so mad, he's just like,
he's just like, I've screwed it up so much. Let's just go end it, and I'll just never exist, and so things can just.
Okay, I remember that one now. Hearing about that one,
and then the other one is where he just finds a timeline that is good enough, and then he burns all of his books and all of his memories and stuff, and then just essentially can never travel back.
Okay,
it has 4 endings.
Is it 4 endings?
Holy cow!
Yeah. What was the other 2 then?
I'm looking it up.
Then I think there might be one where it's something along the lines of what you said is, he does something that's good enough and he goes back to make the decisions to not interact with the certain people that he kept ruining their lives.
Oh, yeah.
And so he just says, screw that, I'm going to go back to that time and then just forget about him.
And I think that's the one that's probably in the main movie. Then he passes the girl and she seems happy. So he's like, good, mission accomplished.
That's the theatrical release ending.
Okay. Yep.
Yes,
and he's
the feel good ending.
Yep. And it was, because it was like, you know what? She's happy and I loved her. So I'm glad she's happy. I'm going to go my separate way. So I'm interested to hear. So there's that one, the one where he goes back to the womb. I am interested to see if he can pull up the other 2, because that'd be interesting to see.
The other one was where he goes and finds one that's good enough and he burns his books.
Oh, okay.
That's another one.
Okay. So there's one more after that.
Yeah, because he still has some of the same friends in that version of it.
Oh, okay.
His brother or whatever.
It says there's an ending with the director's cut, but it doesn't. Yeah.
Interesting.
That's one of my favorite movies. It's just good.
Yeah, that was a good one. So Dark, the TV series, it plays with some time travel stuff. And this one, it introduces, it's called The Knot. And there's so many things that are cause and effect. And then I think it's a series, it's a big commitment. I think you would really like it because it gets into almost the determinism thing. Like it goes back to, do you guys know what the bootstrap paradox is? So that's where you figure out how to travel back in time and you're going to go back to try to prevent something bad from happening. But when you get there, you're the reason that causes it. So you never actually, and then it's just a loop that keeps happening.
The reason why it happened was because you interfered.
So you went back to kill Hitler. You accidentally missed and shot his mother and killed his mom and made him evil.
He's mad. And then it goes, and then
you were always meant to go back in time.
Yeah. So it goes to the determinism thing. The dark TV series, it's interesting because there's so many people that are time traveling that it creates a knot and you can't break it because yes, maybe one person could, but it would still tie into this other one and then create the knot. And so the dark TV series was really interesting because there's like people that have gone. Another thing is like you take a book back in time and then that person has that book growing up, but then they go back in time to give that person the book, but the book's already there. And so like it's almost like this weird loop that just keeps it connected. And so yeah, the dark one had some interesting thoughts on time travel too. Because time travel, man, I don't know if I would.
You just reminded me of like the grandfather paradox. You heard of that one?
Nuh-uh.
Where you go back in time to kill your grandfather when they're young, and you kill them. What happens to you? You just cease to exist immediately?
No, I would think that you would be okay. Like you're a separate.
But then you've created like a parallel dimension.
No, go back to you can't create anything from nothing. So like the random thought, like you can't just have a random thought pop up in your head. It has to come from somewhere. So cause and effect, where would all the matter of my body go if I killed my grandfather? Would it just disappear?
It would. It
the
never
world would forget that it existed in the first place.
Now we're going outside of what we know of physics altogether, which is time travel.
Yeah.
So if you go back in time and it's a legit, unless time travel is where you go into like some other like dimension. Right.
True.
Where there's infinite timelines, right? And you go to a different one.
Yep.
Then that's when you wouldn't disappear. But if time travel truly is linear, when you go back and kill your grandfather or kill your dad or whatever before you were born, then you would then disappear.
Interesting.
Because it would change your timeline. So you would break your loop. Right.
See, I don't think you would break it. I think you would
branch off. Then it'd have to be a branch.
But you've already created a branch by going back. So you go back and you kill them. And now are you going to travel? I would think if you travel back to your time that you came from, then you would disappear. But you're already there. And so you could then just live your life.
So you're saying it's a new timeline.
Yeah.
When you go back, it's a whole new timeline.
Yep.
Then so then you could, in that case, you could either go back to your timeline or you just live out your time and nothing would happen because you would never exist. So you wouldn't run into yourself.
True.
That would actually be really scary. That kind of blows my mind a little bit. What if we found out time travel was a thing? We figured out how to do it. We could go back in time and we went back and saw the dinosaurs. And then we came back to current day. How could you confirm that we were current day in our timeline or our original dimension without having questions and going, is this real?
Yeah, that'd be tough. My belief, if time travel is real, I'm like kind of the example that you said, Trevin, where it's determinism, is the reason why the things that have happened in this time have happened was because in the future, time travel does exist, and they went back and made sure that those things happened or were always meant. They tried to change something and it changed.
And then it caused it.
Caused it, exactly.
Yep, the cause and
There's
effect.
only one timeline. That's kind of where my belief sits.
There was a book I read, and I don't remember how they figured it out, but he got recruited to go, oh, he has an eidetic memory. Do you know what that is?
Eidetic memory?
So it's you remember
everything.
Everything. Like you are really, really good. And so he kept the FBI. He has a friend that's in the FBI, and he's a good friend because he hasn't told the FBI he has an eidetic memory, but he keeps trying to recruit him. And the guy's always like, no, no, no. And finally he says, come here and I want you to help us with something. There's some people that have figured out how to like a portal. And so they go through one door and it pops out another door that's like 20 feet away. And they're like, holy shit. And they're like, you have a really good, and I don't even know how the door came to exist or whatever. So he's helping him and he has such a good memory. He starts to notice things. So as the guy walks through the door, he notices he's got 15 gray hairs. That's how good his memory is. But when he comes out the other side, he only has 12. And he's like, wait a minute, you're not the same person that went in that door. But there's such slight differences and they keep doing it so much. The person that walks in that door, there's another universe and that other person walks out. So you're just swapping places with all these different universes.
Does he ever walk through it?
No, so he never walks through it. But then it starts to get scary, where someone walks through it and they come out on the other side and they have a little bit of radiation poisoning. Because in that universe, the area just got hit by a nuke. And so then it starts to get wild of guys, we got to stop this. This is crazy. And so that was really interesting of
what show was this?
It was a book I read. I
Oh,
think it
right.
was. I don't remember what it was called. It was an interesting concept. That one was.
But why were they coming through the door? Not going through, coming through.
Well,
the other end?
because they were walking through to see what's on the other side. If I'm getting what you're saying, right? Walking through to see what's on the other side, and somebody would immediately come right back out.
or with the same memories.
Similar,
they're similar but different worlds.
but different, just slightly different. So in the other world, is he like?
But everyone would think it's just that person returning.
Yep. So there's
And
very
those people
similar
who walked
things.
in would think that they were the ones returning.
Yep.
That goes into that teleportation conversation that we had.
I know.
That was a dope conversation.
Where you're like, are you truly the same person on the other side, or are you something brand new?
Oh, I couldn't. So jumper, where you just jump and appear somewhere else, I'm fine with because it's more magical to me. But like, hey, I'm gonna destroy your body and then reconstruct it over here. I'm like, no, you're not. You are not. Like that
sign
scares
up for that.
me.
Unless there's like some wormhole effect,
where it's
where
like
space time gets crumpled to where there's no distance between these vast distances, and so you essentially appear over there.
Yep.
Because of some
like
wormhole.
the Doctor Strange type thing, where he just opens the portal and he's like, you can see what's right in front of you.
It's like you've seen the example, right?
Where you fold the
you fold a
paper.
piece of the paper,
Yeah.
and then you
That's essentially what
they're
Doctor
on
Strange
top
does.
of each other. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if he did that exactly or not.
Well, it's
I would
just like a
imagine so.
portal opens up, but then it opens up over there, and so it is just like it's space time crunched
Crunching.
in that area. Yeah, time travel. The movies seem to always have a. I don't know. There's always like I don't know. There's too many like.
Sometimes movies about time travel will have something that is like a plot hole.
Yes.
Where you're like, okay, but that was missed. This thing or that thing was missed. Pretty rarely, but sometimes they do a pretty good job where you're like, damn, like it was all synced up. Like everything was perfect.
So here's a question. Do you guys think that time travel in the future will ever be figured out and we'll be able to travel back in time?
I don't.
I kind of don't think so either.
I don't think so either. Do you guys remember what Stephen Hawking did?
Yeah.
Where he invited all time travelers to his birthday party, or he threw a time travel party, and he said, however, in the future, it doesn't matter how far in the future, here's the date I'm setting. 1 year in the future, 1 year from now, all time travelers show up at this place, this precise point in time.
Because it would have happened. Because that would. So he's almost proving that would be possible because he wrote it in history. So he gave people millions and millions of years to come back and appear at that place.
And no one showed up.
Okay.
But they might have just forgotten about it.
Or
they may have gotten lost in history, or something happens, but where we lose
Where
that
we can't, we break
history.
the continuity of that.
Well, like let's say a nuke goes off, right?
nuclear
And then we just
war and
lose-
it wipes that out.
We lose the book, we lose the history of it, and then later we figure out time travel.
That's true too. Yeah, my opinion, time travel will never be able to be, and you already can travel into the future. Like that's where like the gravity and those types of things make sense, where you're going to experience time differently. But I don't think you could ever go in the past.
Is that traveling into the future?
Respective of others observing you,
Yeah. So I guess that's what
not
I'm.
you traveling in the future.
So the reason I say traveling in the future, so if you're going the speed of like, say you're going 99.9% the speed of light to another place, you're going to get there and it took you 3 years, but it was 375 years back on planet Earth. So for you kind of did travel into the future because you're only 3 years older, but back on Earth, they experienced 375 years.
Yeah, it's the same thing on Interstellar. If I stay in the spaceship, but you go on the big gravity planet next to the black hole, for you, it's nothing. It's a couple hours.
Yeah, but that would be more of a perception thing as opposed to.
And that's what I
mean.
mean is that's my only thing with time. I think it could only be perceived differently.
But I guess time travel. You think of time travel. Okay, well I'm gonna go into the future. Then for me, you're gonna disappear, and I'm never gonna see you.
Yeah.
Until you appear again in the future, and until then you're just gonna leave me going. So like time travel in the future is never a good idea because you're gonna leave every loved one behind. They're never ever gonna see you again.
Yeah.
Until you return. And so when you get there, let's say it's 15 years. When you get there, you've been gone for 15 years, even though it was instant.
Yeah.
And so the people that you're going to encounter are people who have not seen you in 15 years. And then you go back and it'll be like nothing changed.
But
So
you can't go back.
there's two timelines when you travel in the future.
You can't go back though.
Yeah, if you could.
If you could.
Yeah.
It would be super cool if we could figure it out one day and you could like change history with it. Actually, that wouldn't be cool. Dude, I don't even know if I would want to be alive in that like timeline.
So I think it would be so cool to be able to go back. I don't even want to be a main part of history. I just want to go back and see the dinosaurs. And then I want to be able to fast forward to like early humanoids.
So if you could be an observer, that would be
Yes.
awesome.
Oh,
I
yeah.
wonder if that's the way. Think
if
of
you
Interstellar.
changed things,
Yeah, but think of Interstellar.
dude.
Oh, where he just observes things
Yeah,
from like
where-
the different dimensions.
Yes. So time we could say is like a dimension. I think that's kind of widely understood that that's possible that time is a dimension that can be traversed just like any other dimension, right? So perhaps that's what it is when you travel in the time dimension that you do so as an observer instead of hearing there.
Even though in Interstellar he was pushing books off the shelf.
Yeah, but that was a movie.
I know.
That was to add in a little bit of
So
something.
changing gears a little bit to my conspiracy side, there are theories as to why we haven't found aliens and why they haven't found us yet, and it's time. If they're so far advanced, they may have the technology to travel time, and we may be in the wrong time right now to even be worth coming back to. be
Or we
worth-
haven't ascended to the level where we can even see that.
Right? Yeah. They could be totally outside of our playing field dimensionally that we can't even perceive.
Just like in Interstellar.
Just like in
But
Interstellar.
okay, go back to moving the books and stuff. Perhaps maybe ghosts. That explains ghosts and the feeling of ghosts.
Or maybe even
It's
some of
time
the
travelers.
UAPs.
Yes, exactly.
Like those are just things that are like being
There and then it's
affected
gone.
by that dimension.
Yeah, because we got time travelers who are traveling through time, and then you have that feeling where like, ooh, that was weird. That was somebody passing through time, and you happen to be at the right place to feel them passing through, or they stop for a minute and you can feel like the energy, or like the books moved or the door slammed or something. Well, that's because they were in time at some point traveling in this area in this house, and visiting their grandma, or you know what I mean.
Dude, that's the conspiracy side. I love it. You need to bring that more often.
That's not a conspiracy. We're not conspiring.
Yeah, time travel. Oh, that's a tough one for me to like. It's interesting to think about, but there's just so many plot holes in time travel.
Technically, we're time traveling right now. Like, I mean, yes, we're progressing through a time that we're perceiving, but on Earth, we're traveling at a certain amount of speed.
True.
We're going through the universe at a certain amount of speed, which is speeding us up relative to others observing us if they weren't in our universe.
So here's a question. So obviously we've talked about speed and that affects it. So the universe is spinning. Say we're spinning at like an RPM. Say we're spinning at 1,000 RPM. The whole our galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy is spinning at 1,000 RPM. Does a galaxy that's like, say Andromeda galaxy, is it spinning at 3,000 RPMs? And so they experience time differently than us because the planets that are going does that make sense? Because we talked about like if you're going faster, but is that
To them, to a colony on a planet in Andromeda, they're going to experience it like how we're experiencing.
But
that's what I'm saying is their planet that's on an arm of the galaxy that's spinning is going 3 times faster than because we're not circulating the sun's actually moving, and the planets are trailing behind them and circling them. Have you ever seen that animation?
Yeah.
And so the sun's moving around the galaxy in a circle. What if their sun's going 3 times faster? So
I don't think it'd be that big of a deal. I think gravity has more of an effect on the perception of time and whatever. So
That's why I can't wait till we find aliens for real, and then they just look nothing
For real?
like us.
Yeah.
They're just like blobs, or they're like some weird underwater squid-looking things.
Yeah.
Gravity affects them different.
Yep.
Or they have lower gravity and they're like massive elephants or something.
Here's a thing too. I'm losing my train of thought.
You're good.
Oh, dimensions. That's what I was going to talk about. So, we might have talked about this on a different podcast, but think of yourself as a 2-dimensional figure. Like, what's a 2-dimensional figure? It's like a doodle, right?
Yes.
A doodle on a piece of paper.
But they can only see.
They can only see in one dimension.
Yep.
They can only, if you put yourself on that paper and you're looking at another doodle, they're just a flat line. Just up and down. There is no depth because they're existing there. So, we're three-dimensional creature, right? We can experience in 3 dimensions. So what is that fourth dimension that we can't see but is there? Just like a 2-dimensional creature, right?
So,
and maybe that is just time. It's time. We can't see it.
But we're 3-dimensional creatures. Okay.
The argument is we're 4-dimensional creatures.
We are
experiencing a 3-dimensional lifestyle.
And we can only so the 2-dimensional creature on the doodle on the piece of paper can only experience or comprehend 1 dimension.
Okay.
Because that's all they can see.
Yep.
Right? We are.
So so help me make the connection. What is a 3-dimensional creature? I can see the doodle. I can see the stick man on a paper. And he can only see the flat paper, so he just sees a line.
I think it'd be like a computer, like a 3-dimensional object in a computer, where at any given moment, it looks 2-dimensional.
So like a camera. So like a Polaroid camera.
Yeah.
It's a 3-dimensional thing, but when it takes a picture, it prints it on it can only see 2 dimensions, like on a flat surface. And then we're 4th-dimensional creatures because we're in time. Okay, that makes more sense.
There's probably a better way to explain that. I don't have an example off the top of my head of a 3-dimensional creature that experiences 2 dimensions, but it would be something like a computer rendering maybe, or like a computer program, an entity inside of a computer program where it is 3-dimensional to us because we can rotate around it and stuff, but to it experiencing it only sees just whatever is right in front of its face.
The screen that's 2-dimensional
or something. Yeah.
That makes sense.
But we can experience 3 dimensions. We can move around our hands and we can experience up, down, and depth. But if we can experience those 3 things, then what's that 4th thing that we can't experience?
So rabbit hole that you just made me think of. When I was little, did you ever get close to something and one of the objects was kind of see-through when you'd look at it?
Yeah.
I remember being little and being like, oh my gosh, I think I might have superpowers. And like, it was like this weird, I remember being really little. Like this is probably like when I was like 5 or 6, like you're laying on the couch and like you could kind of like your head's on the pillow and you could see through half of the pillow. I'd be like, what is like, and I remember being so confused as a little kid.
Because you got 2 eyes, brother.
I know, but like as a little kid, I was just like, what is going on? And so it was just other things. I remember like, I was always like very curious about stuff, but I don't know if I was afraid to ask but even like driving and the moon is just like following you and the moon follows you, but the mountains are like flying by and you're like, why the freak does the moon follow me? Like, that's so weird, but that's so cool. Like it was almost like I think it was a positive outlook because I looked at it from like a positive lens. Like the moon follows me. That's freaking awesome. But like, it's like, no, dude, it's just moon's a long ways away. So it's still moving, just not as fast as the mountains.
Dude, little kid brains are hilarious. So I have one that's kind of related to time, or travel and dimensionally. So I had a thought when I was like 6 years old. I was in preschool. I took a nap. I woke up and I thought to myself, and I can remember this. I was like, did I die when I fell asleep? Because I feel different when I'm awake. Like
really?
Right now. Yeah. So, and then as I think about it as an adult, I'm like, what if I've died multiple times, but I haven't died. It's other me's that have. And so other universes, other dimensions are experiencing my death, but I continue going. And so I've thought about that. I'm like, maybe that is like some time travel to interdimensional stuff that you can't prove you've ever actually died or you haven't. Or something. I had that feeling when I was like 6 and I was like, that would be kind of weird. But you just reminded me of it because you're talking about like little kid minds just do the weirdest things.
Well, that goes, you guys remember my Tomorrow Man theory that I think I've shared it a few times where every night you do die and Tomorrow Man inherits the things you did today. So maybe this is the takeaway for the episode because it was just fun to talk about this. But so Tomorrow Man theory is like, if you don't do the dishes today, if you don't work out today, if you eat like shit today, if you're not good to yourself today, Tomorrow Man is going to wake up and he's going to be pissed at Yesterday Man because he set him up for a shitty life. But if you do the dishes today, if you work out today, if you eat healthy today, when you die tonight, when you go to sleep and Tomorrow Man wakes up, he's going to feel grateful for the things that Yesterday Man did for him. And he's going to want to pass that on to his subsequent selves. So like I've always thought about that. Like, what can I do today so that when I wake up tomorrow as Tomorrow Man Trevin, that I'm freaking like, dude, man, yesterday, man, set me up. Like, I am excited about today because the dishes are done. I worked out. I ate healthy. I treated people nice. Like, and so then you want to do that to the next Tomorrow Man. So you try to set Tomorrow Man up with success. So do that. Set up Tomorrow Man with some success.
Or I could go, man, there's a lot of dishes and I'm going to die tonight anyway.
That's future me problem.
Future man.
Tomorrow Man can deal with that.
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm checking out. That's another way.
Goodbye,
I love it.
cruel world.
No matter what, there's two ways to look at it.
That was a fun one. Oh, I did find the endings, by the way, to Butterfly Effect. So ending 1, which is the theatrical cut, Evan and Kaylee see each other on the street. They both look back at each other, but keep walking separate ways.
Okay.
Ending 2, which is the happy ending, Evan and Kaylee see each other on the street and they start talking. Evan introduces himself to Kaylee, and when Kaylee wants to tell him her name, he already knows it.
Okay.
Ending 3, it's the open ending. Evan and Kaylee see each other on the street. Kaylee goes her way, and Evan decides to follow her. They disappear behind a building. And ending 4 is the director's cut. Evan time travels to the day of his birth and takes his life inside his mother's womb. In this version of the movie, earlier in the film, it was mentioned that before Evan was born, his mother had 2 stillborn.
Oh, interesting.
So there's 4 endings.
Yeah, I don't remember those endings exactly then. I was mistaken.
You're sleeping.
I was mistaken.
That was
yesterday, man.
yesterday. You.
The Mandela effect. There's another
They
episode.
don't exist. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Trevor.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks, man. That was good.
Thanks, guys. See you later. Let us know what you thought on our socials about this episode and get back to us if you have any thoughts or feelings.